And welcome back. Give it a minute.
Yeah, probably one, 2 more minutes. People roll in. I'll keep an eye on the waiting room too.
Yeah, and if anyone had trouble downloading Node or anything like that, or any of the other stuff, you can chat me or chat someone else if you don't want to ask, and we'll send you some instructions.
All right. Let's just jump right into it. We got a lot of code to write this week, and then we got Jake to jump in and show us off some AI tools. So, can I share my screen? Jimmy, can you let me share my screen?
Yep, there you go.
Perfect. Okay. There we go. You see this? Okay, perfect.
Yep.
Hey, everyone, we are going to jump right in. So we're going to go ahead and build a personal website this week. It's going to have multiple pages using Git routes that we learned about in week 1. And then Jake is going to jump in and show us some AI tooling, mostly to show us how we can use it to design and like speed up the process. But we're going to do everything by hand with Jimmy and I first. As a reminder, all the notes are here. We're probably not going to have any week 3 notes up for a little bit, but I'll send this recording out right after. And then we've got Jake. Jake, how do you pronounce your last name? Odiger?
Yeah, Oettinger.
Odiger, who is going to be our speaker today. He's going to take over for the later half of the evening. So we'll let him introduce himself then. But we're super lucky to have him on. He's a BC student or grad, or not really. I guess he dropped out halfway through. And he's now working at Thrive Capital on their engineering team. So excited for you guys to hear from him. But let's go ahead and jump right in. So today we're going to build like a profile page, kind of like an old school MySpace page or a Facebook profile or Instagram profile. It's going to show off some information about yourself, some of your interests, and then we're going to have a contact me page as well. One of the big things we're going to learn on the HTML side is how to make a form so you can ask for inputs and data. And then we're actually going to make an API call off to a server that we set up, and you guys are going to be able to send some emails automatically to yourselves from your websites, which will be pretty fun. So to get started, you're all going to need Node installed. And I probably wouldn't recommend doing this in real time with me because I'm going to be going pretty fast. But go back and watch the recording after. You can try to keep up on some of this, though. And we'll send up the slides that have all the commands in it. So if you don't have Node installed, make sure Node's installed. You can always check on your computer by typing in node-v, and it should return back a version. So we've got Node installed. This is one of the languages that will help us run everything. And now we're going to go ahead and make a new folder on our computer. You can make it anywhere. We're going to make this just in, I've got a code folder. So to make a new folder, it's mkdir. And then this is terminal here, guys. So that's what this is called. Every Mac has it installed, and it's a little bit different on Windows. But I'm going to make directory mkdir profile application, or I'll just call it profile app. And then I'm going to cd, which means change directory, into the profile app. So I'm going to go ahead and move into it. I'm now inside of that folder. So that's all I did there. It looks confusing. I just made a folder. I moved my cursor into that folder. We're going to run npm init-y. That's going to initialize a new npm setup here. And then we're going to install a few packages. So first up, we're going to install Express. You get that nice little loading screen. Then we're going to go ahead and install EJS, which we'll go through in a second. That's going to help us do some templating. Then we're going to install npm install -g nodemon. This will speed up things a little bit for us locally. And these are all just public free packages that are out there on the internet. And then we're going to make a file inside of this folder. But let me show you guys how to make a files in a little bit more of an intuitive way. So 1 second. Let me open up my program editor. I'm going to open up profile app, and you guys should be able to see it. So we want to make a new folder or new file called server.js. I'm just going to click in the sidebar here in my code editor. I'm going to hit new file. I'm going to call it server.js. Jimmy, could you text me the or drop in the chat the code that I need to put in here? My screenshot seems to have disappeared, unfortunately.
Yeah, I gotcha. Right now.
So while Jimmy does that, we're going to go to the next step here, and we're going to head over to the scripts package or file under where is my scripts in package.json. We're going to see right here scripts. We're going to go ahead and delete this, and we're going to put in what I have here. So we've got start, and then we're going to type in node server.js, and then we're going to have dev, and we're going to type in nodemon server.js, and we'll go ahead and save that file. Now let's go
Brannick,
back to server.
I texted it to you. It's too big to put in the Zoom chat.
Okay.
Here, let me send you the GitHub link directly.
Perfect. Put it in the chat for the group.
Yep, perfect. There you go.
Thank you. 1 second, guys. Okay. So I'm just going to copy and paste this starting in here, and I'll update the slides so you guys have it. So you don't need to worry about writing that down. So let's come back, and here we go. We've pasted in our basic server. So this goes through and sets up a server for us. You can kind of ignore everything up at the top. All you really need to focus on here is this. This is our first route that we've got added. And this creates a get route at /hello. So the path is hello, and it's going to reply with hello world back to us. Let's come back to the slides.
Brannick, real quick, just to recap last week in case anybody missed it. Express is a framework, right? So we talked a little bit about how if you didn't have a framework like this, you would have to manually piece together the exact right format for requests and responses that we talked about in week 1. Express does that for you, right? So what you're seeing Brannick do here is using Express's features to skip that step of having to manually, format those requests and responses.
Exactly. And then we're going to go ahead and start our server, start up Express. So we can come in here. We're going to type in npm install first. And then we're going to type in npm run dev. And you should see it boot up like this.
Oh, you're missing the line, Brannick, to listen on the server at the bottom of that file.
Thank you, Jimmy. Thank you.
You can go back to your GitHub. Yeah, there you go.
Okay, so we'll get this updated in the slides for you guys, but all the way down here, we'll go in, paste in this at the bottom of our file, come back, and wonder if that started already. Perfect. So we said that it should have a URL here at hello, and it returns hello world. Awesome. Let me just move that over so we can see it all in the same tab. So we made a route, a get route /hello. It returns hello world. And let me see. You guys can see we're going to try putting it all up on one window just to make it a little bit easier for everyone. So we've got the terminal here in the middle. We've got a browser on the left. And let me make this a little bit smaller then. And we'll get this all set up for everyone. Okay, there we go. So we've got /hello. We can make any number of get routes that we want. So we can make /goodbye. You enter in that route, and then you follow this kind of standard here. So we're going to say request, response, going to be a function, and then res, which is response.send. We'll say goodbye. And then we'll add a colon down at the bottom. And as a reminder, this is all a website is. We go to goodbye now. There we go, we have goodbye. That's all websites are. They're just collections of hundreds or thousands of these routes all together. So we're going to get started, and we're going to build out our own little profile page. And let me go ahead and make this a bit bigger. And let's go to our next slide. We're going to get organized now. And instead of returning responses right here, we're going to return HTML files over here. So first thing we need to do is make a folder. We're going to call that folder views. You hit right click, make folder, called views. Then inside of views, let's make a new file called profile.egs. Now, EGS is a file type. It's an HTML file type. we'll go ahead and make a very basic HTML document. So if you guys remember, everything in HTML has an opening tag and a closing tag. So we'll wrap the whole document in HTML tags. We're going to have a head tag up top. And then inside of this, we'll have a title tag. We'll call this my profile. And then we'll have a body tag. And my thing auto adds the tag, so I don't need to type it out, which is kind of nice. And then let's add a heading 1, which will say, welcome to my profile. And then let's add some paragraph text below. My name is Brannick Wykes. There we go. So we've got that set up now. Now let's add a route for this. So let's add a route to serve this on, let's go ahead and call it profile. So we'll do the same thing again, make a new route, / profile. And then we've got a request and a response. And this time, instead of returning with that send function, we're going to do response.render, and we're going to render the profile. Okay. Feel free to put any questions in the chat. We'll make sure to answer them. But now, if I come over here and I go to profile, check that out. We're returning this profile file here. This HTML document is getting returned. You can update it to my profile 2, and then I reload it. And my profile 2 up in the top title area, updated there. We've now got our first page on our website.
Hey, Brannick.
So
why would we use a template file like this instead of just returning HTML directly from the route?
So we will get to that in a second, but this EGS is a templating system, which, Jimmy, good question. Slide here. We're going to now add variables to it. So as you guys might imagine, it gets kind of tedious to have to write every file on your website by hand. We're going to be able to pass variables to these pages to display things. For example, if I wanted to pass a variable for my name, I could do that. So let's go ahead and show how we do that. Let's start in our server.js file. And now let's come into the profile. And instead of passing just profile, we're going to go right after the profile name, and we're going to pass an object. I do that with curly braces. And we're going to say name, Brannick Wykes. So this says, hey, pass to this profile file a variable called name with the value of Brannick Wykes. That's all it is. We're going to do that. Now let's head back to our profile, and let's go ahead and delete that. Now we need to tell this HTML, hey, I want you to render the name here in lieu of this. To do that, we use this special symbol. The symbol here is going to be a left caret, $, name, and then we have a closing tag, $, closing caret. This is not HTML technically. This is EJS, which is the templating language that we're using. It kind of combines them together for you. Let's go ahead and let's reload on my profile. And I reload. Check it out. My name is Brannick Wykes. Even though that doesn't show up here, it's passing that variable and rendering it. That's called server-side rendering. So we can swap that name out. We can call that Jimmy as well here. My name is Jimmy. And that renders out nicely. So let's finish this page for Jimmy. Let's add another section, maybe for about. So let's have a little bio for Jimmy. And let's say, Jimmy is from Chicago. Great. And then let's do a profile image. And Jimmy, can you put in the group chat a link to your LinkedIn profile image, please? Or we can go get it. Let's go get it. Jimmy McDermott, LinkedIn. Here he is. Check it out. Now, there's Jimmy. I'm going to go ahead and right-click on the page. I'm going to hit inspect, hover over this image, and I'll see an URL here in the sidebar. I'm just going to copy that, check it. There we go. That's Jimmy. Great. We'll copy that, and let's pass in that URL now as a variable here. So we got that URL, and we've got an about. Let's come back to our profile then, and then let's add a subheading down here. We can add a line break for BR, and then let's say heading 2, about me, and then let's add paragraph text, and we'll add the variable here for about. So the variable is left caret % equals about, and then we'll do closing tag % there. Let's go ahead and reload that. Jimmy's from Chicago. Great. let's add an image now for Jimmy's profile image, and let's add that right here. So we'll do image source equals, and now we can put it inside of the brackets here. So we'll do percent this. What did I call that? I called it a profile image. And then we'll do equal sign closing tag. And if you remember, images don't need a closing tag. It's one of the elements. It doesn't. I might have messed that up.
You've got an equal instead of a yeah, percent. There you go.
Thank you. There we go. We've got a profile now. My name's Jimmy. About me, Jimmy's from Chicago. So let's come back to our server JS file. Let's delete these old routes that we had here. And let's work on adding a couple more pages. So let's go ahead and add an activities page. This will be a page that lists out all of Jimmy's activities. Did I spell that right? Activities. Yep.
Yep, looks good.
And then we'll follow the same format here. I'm just looking above. I don't memorize this stuff, guys. I just kind of Google it every time I do it. And then let's just render out a activities page. So we'll get the page rendering first. So we'll come here. We got to make a new page then. So we'll make a new page called activities.ejs. Great. I like to then just copy over the old page we have. We already did all that work. Let's copy it over. And we'll title this one My Activities. And then let's just delete all of this. So there's nothing here. And let's list out our activities. There's a tag in HTML called the ordered list or the unordered list. Ordered list is OL, like that. And then you have list items, which are LI. And you can do this. So Jimmy, I don't know what activities you like. You like to code.
Like to code.
You like to walk your dog, Oslo. Yep. You like to go out in New York City. There we go. We've got activities. Let's go check out that activities route. Remember, we're going to the route here. Boom. We've got that. Let's add a heading on this page too called My Activities. My Activities, code, walk your dog, go out in New York. Great. Now let's say we want to make this a little bit more dynamic. Let's go ahead and pass this in as a bunch of data to the page. So we're going to go ahead and do a comma. And then we'll do a squiggly brace. And then we're going to do a key called activities. And then a colon, and we'll do an array here. We're going to do an array. And then we'll pass all the items in here. So we'll do code. We'll do.
Well, he's doing that if you don't know what an array is, if you're coming in with no CS knowledge, an array is just a list of items, right? So instead of a string just being one, this is just a multiple items being passed at once.
Yep, exactly. So it says, hey, inside of this, we're going to have 3 items. They're separated by commas, and each item is contained in the quotes. Let's head back to our activities. Now, we don't need to put these here, so let's go ahead and get rid of that. Now, if I reload, it doesn't show up. How do I do in array? Well, I have it here, so you guys can see it in the screenshot. What we're going to do is do that special sign, left caret, %, activities dot for each. And then it's going to say, for each activity, return the following. And it's going to return, I think I have to abbreviate it like this, which gets a little goofy, but bear with me. Closing tag. And then we're going to come down here and we'll wrap this thing in another one of these.
And if you find this syntax weird, don't worry about it. We're going to see later on with Jake how AI can help with that, and also Google and ChatGPT, all that good stuff. So don't worry about memorizing this syntax. Yeah.
Yeah, you look it up and Google it and play around with it. But basically it says, okay, take this array of activities, and then for each is a function on an array. So it says, okay, for each item in activities, pull the item out, and we'll call that item activity, then return this, everything in here. So it's going to return everything in here. Well, what's inside of here? It's a list item. that displays the activity that we named there. This is just a variable name that it's looping through. Let's go ahead and reload that now. I messed it up. Okay, let me just see what I messed up. And this is how programming goes. You pretty much just keep messing things up pretty much all day long.
Activity spelled wrong. Good catch. Thank you.
There you go.
No problem.
And as you'll see with Jake, there'll be a couple ways you can catch some more of that stuff. Activity, not wrong in multiple places. Oh, I see. I promise I went to BC, guys. There we go. We've got a dynamic list of activities. Perfect. Okay, we're going to keep moving then. Let's add a link to this page, right? So we got our main profile page. Let's add a link to our page here. So let's go in profile. And then let's go link. So how do we add a link? The A tag called activities. And then we're going to add a part of this called an href is an attribute. And it's going to be / activities. Now let's reload that. And boom, there we go. Now let's add a page to go back to the home page on this. We can say profile. Go back to profile. You guys can kind of see how a website starts to form. You can click around, right? Now, real quick, in the next 10 minutes, we're going to teach you guys about forms. So this is Jimmy's website. Let's say he wants to put it out to the world and he wants a contact form. So when someone goes to his website, they can submit their name and a message, and that'll get an email to Jimmy, and he can reach out to them. So let's make a new page called contact, new file, contact.ejs. Let's copy in our format that we had here, and we'll call this contact me. Contact me. Let's delete the contents. And we're going to introduce a new type of tag. This tag is called a form tag. And a form is one of the foundational parts of the internet. Pretty much everything's form fields. You got a form, and within that form, there are a bunch of inputs. So we'll have two inputs here. One will be an input for a text. Let's ask for someone's name, perhaps. And then we'll ask for a message. So let's just do input. The type is going to be text. The ID is going to be name. So these are all attributes. The name of this field is name. And we're going to say this is required. So if someone wants to submit this form, they have to enter in a name. And then let's go ahead and add another input. And this one's going to be a text area. So we want someone to be able to write out a message. So we'll go ahead and say the ID of this is going to be a message. I've got this on the screenshot on my left, so I'm just kind of copying right now. The name of this field is going to be message. And this is also going to be required. So that renders a form, and let's go ahead and take a look at it. We'll need to add a route for this. So let's go to app.get / contact. And then we'll do a comma, request, response. And then we'll render contact. And let's go check out contact. Here we go. We've got two form fields. This looks super ugly, right? Let's clean that up here quick. So one, I don't know what's what. We have this nice label field that is built in. So we can say label, and then you can tell the computer what is the label for. Well, the label is for the name field, and we'll call it name. And then let's add a space here, add a line break, and then let's add another label field. Label or message, and then we'll call this message. Let's load that. There we go. We got name and message now. And can anyone see what I'm missing on the page? Any guesses? We are missing a way to submit the form. So there's really no way to submit this form. We need to add a button. So at the bottom of the form, right before that form closes, we're going to go ahead and add a button. And the type of the button is submit. That's just kind of the default for the internet. And then we're going to hit send message to Jimmy. And let's come back and reload that. Here it is. Let's add a little break down here so we can see it down on the next line. Send message to Jimmy. We got a good question there. What is the difference between ID and name in HTML? So you don't actually need ID on these different fields. An ID is a unique value for an element on the page. It's a good way just to keep track of things. I usually don't put IDs on things. Like this page should work just fine without these IDs. I just reload it. It works fine. Name, though, is really important. Name inside of a form. When we submit that form, it's going to submit the data to somewhere, and the data that gets typed in is going to be under these labels. So whatever you enter in for the name field will get entered in under name, and whatever you get entered in under the message will be entered in under message. So I'll show you guys what that looks like here in a second, and I think it'll make more sense for you. So let's go ahead and add a place for this form to go. So you remember on the first week we learned about post routes? Well, when you submit a form, you're posting the form data to somewhere else on the internet. So we're going to go ahead and say we're going to post this form to a route called contact, and then we're going to use the method of post. Okay. So we say, hey, form, when someone hits this submit button down here, send all of the data, all this stuff, and send it over to this contact route. Now we're going to come back into server. We've got a contact get route, but we do not have a contact post route. We're going to go ahead and make a new contact post route. It's going to be / contact, the same thing, but it's not going to get confused because this is a post and that other one's a get. We'll do request response, and then come down here. And I think we can go ahead and say response send message received. And I think we can go ahead and print out the data. Sorry for all the little pop-ups. I'll try to get rid of those for next week. So this should post here, and then it should reply back and say, hey, message received. Here's the data we received. So let's go ahead and let's try this. So my name is Brannick, and then I'm going to send a message, hey, Jimmy. Let's hit the send. Invalid status code message received.
You're sending back the request.body as the status.
I think I need to send, what do I need to do here?
I think it's .json, right?
Yeah, there we go. Let's try that again. Didn't break anything. Enter this, say, hey, Jimmy. Hit send. Invalid status code. One more second. Let's see here, guys. Let's try.
Jake in chat.
Okay. We'll try this. This is where you usually Google things. You see, okay, what did I do wrong? Hey there. There we go.
Yeah.
Check it out. We've got our data that came out. And those fields that you guys were asking about, the name here and the name message, those are the keys for the data. So we've got the name, key value, name, message there. That's how we access that. Now, this doesn't do anything. We actually want to send this somewhere. We're also going to show you guys quickly how to send this to an API. So we've set up an API. That just means we've got a server running somewhere. And this server will let you guys send an email to yourselves. And we're going to go ahead and write this. We're going to start, and we're going to say, all right, we've got two variables that come in here. We've got message and name, and these variables are in the request body. Okay. So that will go ahead and go into the request body, what we just submitted, and pull out message and name. And then I want you guys to write your own email here. I'm going to enter in my email. This is going to be the email address that when it submits the form, we're going to send an email to. So you guys can get a real email. This should all be working for you. And then we need to write a little message. So what do we want to send in a message? Well, let's just send exactly what someone submitted. Okay, so I'm going to call this formatted message. We're going to hit equals here. I'm going to do a little tick mark. And we're going to format this as name, and then message. And this just combines into one big string. So this is just going to say, hey, formatted message. I want you to go in, swap out this name variable into here, swap out the message variable into there, combine that into one variable called formatted message. So I now got the whole message as a formatted message. Now we're going to make an API call from our local computer here. So we're going to go ahead and do const response equals await fetch. So fetch is a way to make a URL call, basically, just like you in your browser would go click on Google or submit something, kind of like a fetch. It's a library. We are going to paste in this URL. We've got it in our slides and we'll send it out. Jimmy might be able to put it in the chat here for you guys.
Yep.
And then we're going to pass in some data. So this URL is a server, and that server has some things that it needs. We need to tell it what kind of request are we making. Well, we're making a post request, and then we need to give it some headers. Headers are a way to tell the server what kind of information we're sending. Just copy and paste this for now. It's really not that important that you guys know how that works. It's going to be called JSON now. So that's the type of data we're sending. And then let's send the data. We send that in the body of the request. You guys may remember playing around with Postman. This is how that works. We'll do JSON.stringify. And then we're going to go ahead and do the email, the message, which is going to be our formatted message, and our subject. And we're going to say new message from name. So let's walk through all of this now. And Jimmy, let's enter in your email. What's your email?
Yeah, perfect. Jimmy, Jimmy, at jdmcd.io. MCD, yeah, there you go. And you need async on the body function here before request. You got to define the closure as async after /contact.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. So some of this you guys can ignore. I know there's a lot going on here, but this will pull in a couple variables, message and name. It's going to pull in an email or set an email that we just provided with it. And it's going to format that as one big message. And then we're calling this API that we set up for you guys. It's a real API. It's going to send a real email off. It's going to send an email to Jimmy. So this is someone going to his website. He wants to get notified when someone tries to contact him. And the things you need to pass that API are three things: the email, which we pass the email from here, the message, which is our formatted message, and the subject, new message from whoever's submitting that email. So this is all set up now. Now let's go ahead and go back to our contact page. And I believe we can go ahead and try to submit this. We'll say, Jimmy, or, I'm Brannick. Hey there, did you get my email? And let's hit send message to Jimmy. Let's hope this works. Message sent. So what just happened there? We submitted this form. It sent all that data to contact. That came in and hit this post route contact. And then it ran through all this logic and it hit this API endpoint. And Jimmy, I'll let you check your email. But
there we go.
Did you get an email? Boom. You just got a real email with the contents of that. That is how you guys set up a basic website, how you build forms, how you hit API endpoints, all of that good stuff here. Any questions on that? I know I just went very fast. I'd recommend going back through the video, rewatching that, and it should make a lot more sense, especially as you play around with it. Try changing the names, try adding some more fields. This is a real endpoint, though, that you guys can use. So if you want to send some emails to yourself, you can use this. You just got to make sure it follows this format. So email, message, and subject. But you guys can put whatever you want in this message. You could add, go BC Eagles down there, and that'll get added into the email message that gets sent out. So this should be hopefully a fun way for you guys to play around with some API routes and making some pages. And we got no questions. I will go ahead and hand things over to Jake, who's going to take it from here and show you guys some AI tools to how to do that very fast and how to do it automatically. So I think you guys will have some fun seeing what the computer can do for you now.
Yeah.
Jake, good to go?
Yeah, should be very cool. As Brandon kind of alluded to earlier, I'm Jake. I was at BC somewhat briefly. I work at a venture capital firm in New York now, doing software engineering, and have done like a lot of different things with AI, especially some of these like AI tools. So I'll show you guys kind of what is the state of the art right now that Brannick, myself, Jimmy all use every day. So let me first share. Let's see. See my text settings right now, or
And make it a little bit bigger, Jake, but we
Yeah.
can see it.
good or bigger?
Maybe
That should be
like two
good.
clicks more, or yeah, one, yeah, that's perfect. There you go.
Okay, cool. Let me hide this. And then let me just make sure I can. Okay, so I have kind of a very rudimentary version of what what Brannick had set up, so you can see all the different routes, these like templates with the titles, activities, all of that good stuff. But let's try and add some styling to this, and we're just going to do this all with AI. So the tool that I'm using is called Cursor. Basically, it just adds AI into your text editor. And so there are a couple different features that it has, and I'll kind of like walk through each one. The first one, kind of like a primary one, is this like chat feature. So you can either ask it questions about your entire code base or like specific files, or even have it like explain some syntax to you. So like for me, I've never used this templating system before. So I can highlight this. It has like add to chat or edit. So I'm gonna add it to the chat. I'm gonna, and I'm just gonna ask it like, what does this code do? And so it's just going to explain like this is embedded JavaScript. It's setting the title with a variable. We're going ahead and rendering based on this like res.render. And so like explaining all of the syntax. But what's arguably cooler is it can just write a lot of code for you. And so let's see, I can just select all of this and say, add activities to the main page. And if I want to pull in a separate file, so I want to pull in like the server file, I can just add the server, and it'll now have the context of like that entire file and be able to make edits across different ones.
Jake, how important is it to give it the context or not give it the context? Like, how smart is it at figuring that stuff out?
It's almost like human level. So if I was like to pull up the server file alongside this embedded like template file, it would have as good of an understanding probably as I would, just like looking at both. And you want to give it as much context as you think it needs. So like in this, I want it to add the activities to the main page instead of keeping it on the separate page. And so to do that, it might have to change some of the routes. So we're just going to see if it makes those changes. So I'm just going to ask it to do that. It's going to basically change the dashboard route here to include the activities. And then it's going to update the dashboard template as well. And so like, as you can see, I'm just going to go back. So if you look at the dashboard currently, there's no activities on here. If I apply these edits, so like I can literally click this apply button, it will change this to include activities. And then I can accept that. And then this will take me back to the dashboard template, which will now write like all of this code. So I didn't write any of this, and I'm going to accept that. And if I come back and reload, you can see like I have these activities now, and I didn't write any of that code. The AI did, and I was just like reviewing it. So you can see that it's like already able to write things for you. If you want to take it a step further, there's this thing called Composer, which basically will go and write new files for you and edit existing files rather than me having to like click apply a bunch of times. So I can, again, like you can see here, kind of if you follow my cursor, it has like dashboard right now. That's what it's being shown. If I add slash, and then I want to reference whatever's open, that's just like a command. It pulls in server because that's another one of the files that I have in the background. And then let's see like contact as well. But maybe we want to add a new page, and I'm just going to have it come up with a page. Add some new page that is relevant to a personal website be sure to add the data dynamically and make sure at least one of the fields is an array type. So let's start there. So what it's actually going to do is it's going to add this project section. It's going to first, it's like showing you its steps. So it's going to add the route to server.js first. And so I can go ahead here and click and see that, okay, it's now added like e-commerce platform, some like GitHub URLs, which are like fake, the array field, which is technologies. And then now it's going to actually create this new projects template. It's writing all of this for me. Like I'm just supervising it. And we can get into the styling as well, because it's actually adding styling to make it look a little bit prettier. And so what you can actually do is like, if you're in here, you can just accept all instead of having to like apply one by one. And now if I come back and reload, okay, it has this projects link. And now you can see like there are actual like projects here. So it has these nice like badges, these titles, like, and it's rendering all of that dynamically. Like you can see here. So that same syntax that we had before, where it's just like iterating over all of the projects, which again is just like a list of items. It's going to log the name, the description, the technologies, and then the tags. But like, again, AI just wrote all of that code for me. Like I didn't do any of that. And it just...
Can we just pause to appreciate for a second? Like, this is not how any of us learned how to program. Like, this is crazy, right? Like this is still just feels novel to me, but this is like mind blowing, right? That just did that. And if you scale this up to like, really large applications, really large websites, like it's like having an employee at your disposal that can do this work for you. So like the thing that we like to say is like, there's no excuse for anybody to not be able to build websites like this anymore. So I just want to pause to like really make sure everybody appreciates what just happened there. Like you just had an employee do work for you like for free. Like that's great. It's crazy.
Yeah. And so like, if you want to make more targeted edits, so let's say first, okay, again, like we didn't really cover, I don't think we've covered yet, any of this like style syntax. So what this is it's called CSS. Basically, it's just a way to add different formatting to websites. And it's kind of like the standard, basically all website styling is kind of like built off of CSS. So first, I'm just going to have it explain, like I'm going to use the chat feature again to explain like what this is. Explain this CSS code to a new programmer. And so it's basically, it's going to say like, okay, each card's going to be 300 pixels wide. The cards are automatically going to fit into rows. They'll stretch evenly to fill the space, and just kind of like going, like stepping through each attribute here of the style sheet. But then if I wanted to make more like targeted edits, you have this feature called edit, which is Command K. And now you see like I have this text box here. And it's just on the GitHub link section. So if I say something like change the color of the website to red and of the link to red and make it a bit more visually appealing. And so it's just going to go through and like change the color. It's going to add this border. It's going to change the border radius, which you'll like see. And so if I just accept that change, I come back, boom. Now like it just wrote that for me, but it was very targeted as opposed to like me just saying, okay, composer, just like edit all these different files, because I knew exactly what I wanted to change. But as you can see, like, okay, it still has this kind of link, but it's just that different format. So those are some of like the key features. It's like chat, composer, and edit are kind of like the most popular right now. But again, like I can't stress enough, it's like a totally new paradigm, as Jimmy was talking about. Like I had no idea what this syntax was. Like I can code, but I had never seen this before. And so I was just able to pick it up like right before this call because I just asked Cursor to like explain what was going on. I can just take basically some questions live, and like if there's anything you guys want to see or like to like push it to its limits, or like Brannick or Jimmy.
Yeah, Jake. How can you have it just like let's say you wanted to make a 1970s themed website.
Yeah,
Would
yeah.
it go through and just introduce a 1970s theme to everything?
Yes. So let's do that. So I'm just gonna have Composer do this. I'm going to just give it, I'm just gonna have it access the whole code base, but it should be able to figure that out. So basically I'm just gonna say like, turn all of the styling into an appealing 1970s website. It should be extremely stereotypical, but make sure that it is visually appealing. You'll need to edit all routes and let me change which model it's using. Okay, so it's going to first check the existing files. So it's checking the current directory. Directory is just like a folder, so it just contains multiple files. It's going to check the views as well, and then server.js for the routes. And so what it's going through, it's like literally going through and reading each file to like understand what's going on, because I gave it no context. And I was just like, okay, figure it out for yourself. And so it's going to create a 70s themed layout with groovy colors, retro fonts, and psychedelic patterns. And then wants to create like a shared header with some common styles and navigation. So we'll see like what it comes up with. So
I always love that it tells you like, oh, I went and I read this file. It kind of feels like it's like a little human. It's a little unnerving.
And so it also gives you this nice kind of view inline as well. So instead of me having to like go to each file and view it, I can just see this here. And so it's like, it's adding this it's adding this font from Google. It's like adding a bunch of these colors to the like root level, doing some like background stuff, which we'll see here in a sec. But I'm just gonna like let it go through all of the different pages. But like you can see, it's like changing all of the code, which is what Brannick basically wanted. And so now it's updating the contact page. And then, okay, so now it's on the final file. So it says finally, it's going to update the activities page. And then we'll see. I'm very curious what it's.
Jake, can you talk a little bit about you mentioned switching your model? Can you talk about that really quick?
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
What does that actually mean?
Yeah, so what Cursor does is you can see down here that there's this like model selector. So to take a step back, AI is not just like one very smart like God model. It's not just like everything is the same and like ChatGPT powers everything. There are like a lot of different AI providers basically. And so different AI providers may have models that specialize in different tasks. So there's like thinking models, which basically take longer, but sometimes their outputs are better. There are more traditional like GPT models, which is like what ChatGPT got its name from, that are basically like, they don't take time to think, they just kind of give you an output. And so you'll want to use like different models for different tasks. This model called Claude is like very, very good as like a GPT model and doesn't really do any of the thinking. And so what I'll do is I'll like alternate between ones for different tasks. So if I'm looking for something that's like smarter and to give a better description, I'll probably use what's called O3 Mini. That's like one of those thinking models. So basically it can like almost reflect as a human would and be like, oh, okay, here's the thought process behind the answer. Almost like if you were doing math on paper, it's like, okay, 1 + 2 is 3, like show me your work. That's kind of what these thinking models are doing. Whereas like Claude or GPT-4o and some of these other ones, they're not necessarily showing their work. And so you might get like a more inaccurate answer. For some of these simple tasks, these like faster models are better. But yeah, so okay, it looks like it's completed everything. It's like I've updated all the pages with this cohesive theme, as this retro color palette, all of that. You guys can kind of go in the recording if you'd like, but I'm just gonna accept all and like see what it comes up with. So if I refresh, that's actually really good. Wow, shit.
That's crazy.
So yeah, it just has like groovy projects. Oh, this is just the projects page. So like, let's go to the home page. So it's got this like corny background, like far out dashboard. It changed like everything. It like even has this nice little tilt when you hover over. has all the different activities, the project section with that nice like animation, and then like the form that we were doing before, and it's like send vibes down here.
Wait, Jake, I have a quick question off this.
Yeah.
So we just talked about like doing targeted programming,
Yeah.
and now that we changed the entire code base, let's say like, oh, I don't know where the send the vibes button in our code is, but
Yeah.
I want a targeted fix of that. Can I like, is there any way that I can find where that button
Yeah.
is?
So if I didn't want to like search through the files, like say you had a really large code base and you were like ramping up for the first time, what you could do is you could literally like ask it, where is the send vibes button and what route does it link to? And then
Oh, nice.
there's this like command enter, and that basically will bring in the entire code base. So what this does is it's called like embeddings, but basically you're like, you're developing a representation of like each file. And then you're taking what the user input. So like my question of like, where's the send vibes button? You're turning it into like, you're effectively doing some math to find what is closest to the query that the user sent. So like turn this into a bunch of numbers and then match those numbers against like all the numbers of the different files, and then rank those based on like how similar they are. This is like a gross oversimplification, but it
I
works.
see.
And so then what it's able to do is it's able to see like, okay, it's in this contact form and submits to contact message. And so it says like, okay, it's in contact EJS, and then the route is here in server.js. And so like, if I click, it will like literally like pull up. And so, sorry to like show this a little bit more obviously. If I click that code, like it's actually going to direct to the code in the file, which is, you know, right here. So this contact message. And then similarly, like with this contact form button, it will also like open the contact file and then like literally take me to that line. So like, here's the Groovy name, and then the send vibes button is right here. And so with this as well, like, we can just obviously, like, we can make sure this works too. So, wait, Jimmy, this will send to you, or, right?
It'll send to whoever you put in that email right there.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, if I say, Jimmy, what was yours? Jimmy at,
JDMCD.
Yeah.
.io. Yeah.
Okay. And then, so like, let's put that back in.
You see how cool this is? You can just tell it to do anything. Pretty much like, honestly, for the next few years, it's just like unlimited glitch in the system. You can learn how to code and do this stuff, and it doesn't take too much. A fun fact here: Jimmy never took a single CS course at BC. He's entirely self-taught. Like the learning curve is not that high. Obviously, Jimmy's really smart, but just sitting down and figuring this stuff out, you guys can become experts pretty quick.
And so let's see, I don't know, Jimmy, did you get the email so that it didn't?
Let's see. I did, yes.
So unless Jimmy,
yo, Jimmy, this is a 70s website. Yep.
cool. So unless Jimmy's lying to us, like everything still works. So it's not like the page just like killed a lot of the functionality. But yeah, so that's basically it. Like this is now what I do all day. So instead of me like handwriting all of the code like Brannick was doing, you can basically just like tell it what to do and like supervise it. And as long as like you have an understanding of the fundamentals and like system design as well. So just like understanding like how different parts should fit together. So like, okay, this route, like maybe I should split this one route up into like two separate routes because I need like the functionality is too intertwined right now. Or making some of those decisions, like it's good to know like how to code and like to understand what it's writing for those reasons. But now a lot of this like boilerplate stuff or styling can be like written by AI, which is pretty crazy. And you should also like be using it to learn. So it's a lot less, programming is a lot less Googling than it was before. Like now it's a lot of just like asking ChatGPT or like Cursor and being like, oh, what's going on here? Like get me up to speed, basically. Yeah, it's a pretty incredible time that we live in. It can do more than just like write your essays for you.
Hey, Jake, can you also real quick, can you show tab and Command K inside of a file?
Oh, yeah. Let me see if I can get it to auto complete something. So there's also this thing called cursor tab. Some of you guys may have used like GitHub Copilot. It's basically that on steroids. So you can already actually see it trying to do this. So I literally just added a comma, like let's do this again. So I just added a comma to activities here at the end, and like I just hit tab, and like now name John Doe appears. And so like we don't have anything, I don't believe, in activities. Yeah, so we don't have anything here to like actually show the name, but it like wanted to add name here. So let's see if I can make this a little bit better. So add a name and page render somewhere plus style. So I'm gonna have it go through, and again, this is using Command K, which is like the edit feature. I was just like too lazy to use Composer or anything. I didn't really need to like select the whole page, but basically just like edit the entire page. And so now it's like going through and adding like some styling for the user info, and then it's gonna like add name and age. And it's kind of funny because it kept the same theme with like Groovy Explorer and age. You can kind of ignore this, but basically this is just going to fall back. So if the age isn't provided, it'll show that it's 25. That's basically all this double straight line is just like or. I think hopefully that's right. Brannick, you can correct me, but that looks so
Looks good.
the cool thing here though is like it has the context on what I just wrote. And so now it can like autocomplete that for me. And so it's just going to show like name and age. And that was this thing called tab, which is basically like GitHub Copilot, but on steroids. So now if I come back to the dashboard, wait, did I mess something up? Oh, activities. Wait. Okay, so now I'll have to put on my critical thinking hat, see why this actually didn't render.
Sometimes the brain is still required. It's not
Yeah,
all
yeah. Okay,
AI,
so
AI
age,
yet.
name, I'm on this activities route. So now I'm like, okay, what's going on here? Name, age, user info.
Oh, Jake, I actually don't think you were you on the activities route, or were you on the homepage?
Oh, I might have been, I'm on the homepage.
Ah, there you go.
Yeah. All right, that's the critical thinking. So now, though, it's going to show like the Groovy Explorer and age 25, which is, again, it just completed all of that code for me. Like I didn't write any of it. All I did was had user error and was like on the wrong page. So it's like pretty insane. But again, that was just like autocomplete, which is similar to GitHub Copilot if anyone's used that. But basically, it's just like taking a loose description is like it's taking all of the code that you've written or it's written for you, and then like trying to predict the next action or like series of actions. And so like if I went to contact, for instance, and like add some more fields, so it'll just like come up like the email, what's the message about, like for a subject. And then if I did like dashboard or something too, add some new things. So it'll try and like add some new stuff. So like today's date, this like whether it's active or not, I guess this motivation badge. So we'll just like go ahead and accept these. Let's sanity check a little bit. Let's see. Okay, so like activities, when I last logged in, this like motivational quote that it decided to add. So that's all great. But now if I come back to here, oh, that's actually a poor example.
We got one question for you after
Yeah.
you finish this, Jake.
Yeah, well, it's a poor example, but basically like if I had, not the worst example. Okay, let me pull up the server. And then for the contact message, let's see if I can complete this. Yeah, okay, so it has phone and subject. It's now just gonna like literally add phone and subject to the formatted message. And like, that's it. Let's see if this works. Go ahead, Jimmy, or sorry, Brannick.
Yep. We had a question from Luciano. What do you think of StackBlitz and Bolt.ai?
Yeah. Great for like quick prototyping and hosting. They are like really good if you're not going to build like a full production app. Like if you wanted to build a very simple, like honestly, a personal website for yourself, or for like your business or something, and just get something out fast, but you didn't like plan to maintain it or add a bunch of features, it's like really great for that. For anyone that doesn't know what that is, basically like Bolt or like Blitz, there's also a new one called like Lovable. These are all like, if you took Cursor, but like turned it into a website and just hid it behind like a single ChatGPT like input box. So if you told it like, give me a personal website that like answers these specific questions and like has this information, and then it would just like do it for you and then provide you with a link to like the hosted version. So like right now, this is all running on my computer, but if Brannick wanted to access my website, like I don't have that set up yet. But similar to how he hosted the like API to send an email, you'd want to host your website so that like other people can use it. And so what these other sites do is they'll like abstract that and just like kind of host everything for you and like build the whole thing. So it's like one step up a layer of abstraction to like make things like easier for someone to build. But if you wanted to like tweak it a lot, it wouldn't necessarily solve that problem for you.
The other thing I would say is like if within your means, give yourself like a small monthly budget to play with these types of tools. They're usually all within the like $20 a month range, roughly. Cursor's free, but then steps up once you start using it. I can't tell you how valuable it is to know like kind of what's out there and be able to try different types of tools. So somewhere between, if you've got like an extra $50 a month to spare, like signing up for a few of these services to test how they work and try them out in different types of projects, it's worth way more than the $50 you're going to pay.
Yeah.
I just have a quick question. Like, this is pretty insane. Like, I've played around with ChatGPT to code, but nothing. I haven't seen anything like Cursor, so it's really cool, but also like a little bit scary coming into like a software engineering role and seeing, an AI spit out something that, would take maybe an hour or something to write.
Yeah.
So what do you suggest for like future, like upcoming software engineers to be like focusing on? Is it learning how to use and like optimize these AI bots? Yeah, just what do you think?
Totally. In my opinion, very strong-headed about this. You need to like learn how to leverage these tools very, very well. Like candidly, I am not as good of a developer as like there are much, much better programmers out there than me. I have been able to, in some cases, like leapfrog those kinds of programmers just because I can like use these tools way more effectively. Like I have been using Cursor for like 2 years now, and just seen like improvement as the models have gotten better and smarter. And so like having it so embedded in my workflow has just made it like second nature. So if I'm like clicking around or like knowing what to add to the chat to make sure it has like the right context and like answer these questions, it just like, yeah, you need to get like really, really good at managing these tools and like basically orchestrating these different agents than just being able to like write the code yourself. You like obviously need to understand what's going on, but you just need to get like really good at leveraging these tools, in my opinion.
And just to give a quick like market data point on that, at least for us, which we're one company, but take it as you will. We've actually added like a test for candidates' ability to use AI tools to our hiring pipeline. Like previously, you would just test on a take-home assignment or something like that. Like now we have a whole hour-long interview with candidates that I'm like, show me how you use these tools and show me like, take me through a workflow where you are developing something with this, because I want to see that they are doing it, because it's a big expectation on our team that like that is a big part of your workflow. So I think I don't know.
That's probably for senior engineers, Jimmy, too.
I don't know. We got
people.
We got a junior engineer on the team that we put through that requirement. So I don't know. I'm on Jake's side here. I have people have different opinions, obviously, but like, yeah, I'm pretty. I'd say I'm strong-headed in the same way Jake is about this. Like, it's pretty important, I think. There's a Jake, have you seen what's that Takeoff? I was trying to find it in the background here. Takeoff AI, or there's like a Cursor course. You know what I'm talking about with
McKay something.
Yeah, McKay's thing. Join Takeoff. Here it is. This is supposed to be pretty good. I'll put this in the chat here. Obviously, like this is some of what we're trying to teach, but we only have an hour each week, and it's not going to go in depth with something like this. This is a whole course on using AI in your development workflow that could be interesting. So worth potentially looking into. Jake, I don't know if you have any better resources,
or
but
just like, I don't know, being active on Twitter. I'm a huge proponent, but like there's a lot of signal there. So if you follow some good people like that, I'll drop his link. Let me find him.
Wait, Jay, can I ask a question while you look for that?
Yeah, totally.
To get better with cursor, is it learning how to like prompt the best, or are there tools inside that you start using?
It's just becoming like having it become like second nature for you using the tool. So like, okay, knowing when to like use the edit feature versus like chat versus composer, like knowing the limitations, but being willing to like push it to its limits. So like, okay, composer may actually work here, like with this newer model. So like, let me try that first if I need to make this like huge multi-file change. But if I don't, and I just like, oh, this is clearly the code that's wrong, like I'm just going to scope it to that and use like the edit feature. Cursor does a lot to like make sure your prompts, not that they don't matter, but like they matter significantly less than maybe like ChatGPT or like using the models directly would. And so it's more just about getting comfortable with like the hotkeys and like shortcuts. So.
And hopefully that like what Brannick and I are trying to do here is when we taught this course at BC, it looked very different because none of this stuff existed. Now what we're trying to do is make sure that you guys have the like fundamental skills that you can then apply these tools on top of, because had 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago when we started the course, if we showed you what you saw today, it would be just as magical, but you wouldn't understand the pieces fitting together under the hood, right? So it is still important. It's still super important to understand what's actually going on, at least to some large degree, so that you're not just spitting out garbage that nobody knows or understands, or that's the bad extreme of the spectrum.
Totally. Yeah, you need to cross like a critical threshold of like you can actually code. Like if you took cursor away from me, I could still write code or at least Google the right things to be able to get the thing to work and like understand what's going on. If you're at a point where you're like, oh, what is actually going on here, and you can't answer the question, like then you should figure out what is going on. Like if it's writing code that you don't understand, even at like a high level. So like for me, like I was looking at the templating syntax that like Brannick and Jimmy were using, and I was like, oh, okay, like what's this? And then I saw like the for each syntax and was like, okay, it's like looping over this like list of items. And so like at a high level, I know what's going on. Now, would I be able to like replicate that code exactly like from memory? Maybe, maybe not, but like I at least understand like what is happening. And so it's like fine. Similarly with some of the styling, like have a general understanding of like the different styles that it's applying and like how color is used versus how some of the like the layout features are used. But yeah, if you're getting to a point where you're like, I have no idea why that worked, like you should probably take 2 steps back and be like, have it explain it to you until you like understand what's going on.
And that what Jake just said at the end right there is cool too. Like there's a spectrum of this where if you're writing production code for your full-time job, then you better be at the end of the spectrum where like what's going on under the hood, right? Because like it's super important that you know what's happening there. If you're at the end of the spectrum where we are today, where it's like, hey, it would be really cool to like spin up a fun-looking personal website, like do you need to beat yourself up to understand like every single line of code in your personal website? Of course not, right? But I think that the tool is really good for also explaining to you what's going on and not just writing the code itself. So you can use it in both ways. I know we're over, but hopefully this one was cool. This is anybody got any final questions or anything? I know we're a little bit over here.
So we'll start using Cursor more for the future classes. And yeah, if you guys are up for it, I recommend making your own profile and trying to upload it to GitHub then. And feel free to send the link to Jamie I or Amon. And Amon's going to send out some details to meet up in person on campus if you need help getting everything set up so you guys can crank out some more code locally and build your own little website. Good stuff.
And thanks to Jake for joining.
Thank you, Jake.
Thank you, Jake.
Guys, feel free to reach out if you have any questions to me. I'm sure like Jimmy or Brannick or whomever can like share my contact. So
totally.
Cool.
Awesome.
See you guys.
Cool. All right. Thanks everyone.
Thanks. See you guys.
Thanks, Jake.
Thank you.